I was on a plane to visit my long-distance boyfriend and encountered strong turbulence. I vomited all over the place. He even wrote his suicide note. After landing safely, I told my boyfriend about the experience with great joy. He listened for a while and then asked me calmly, "Are you done? After that, I'll go read the literature." My words, "Let's get married soon," got stuck in my throat. Later he frowned and asked me, "Why did you break up?" "Just because I didn't chat with you." I said, "Yes, I have to thank you. If I hadn't left you, I wouldn't have known." Some people will engrave every word I say into their hearts. 1. On Friday night, I flew to visit my long-distance boyfriend as usual. What was different from the past was that this time, I encountered severe convective weather. The plane was shaking violently at an altitude of 10,000 meters, and even the oxygen masks fell off. I could hear the passengers sobbing one after another. Every shake of the fuselage seemed like death waving to me. I spent the most horrible 30 minutes of my life. In desperation, he opened his phone and scribbled a few words in a suicide note, thanking everyone who had appeared in his life. Thanks to God, the plane finally landed safely. The moment we landed, all the passengers cried with joy. This surviving experience was so terrifying that it was comparable to a horror movie. My legs were weak until I walked out of the airport. A sentence kept flashing in my mind. "Natalie Morris, you have survived a disaster, and you will surely have good fortune in the future." It was late at night when the plane landed, so I called a taxi and went straight to my boyfriend's house. Nathan Rogers is a doctor and always gets off work very late. We entered the door almost at the same time. We hadn't seen each other for 2 weeks, but when Nathan saw me, he just smiled slightly. While changing his clothes and washing his hands, he said to me, "You should take a rest first. I still need to read some papers." I know Nathan is very busy. He sees patients at work, reads medical records after get off work, and also finds time to write articles. If it were usual, I would just let him do what he wants. But the experience just now was so thrilling that I had to share it with him. I dropped my luggage, rushed into Nathan's arms, hugged him and started talking nonstop. I said that there was a 5-month pregnant girl sitting next to me and she was traveling alone. It was me who kept comforting her and finally made her stop crying. I also said that my best friend had just asked for a peace talisman for me not long ago, and maybe it was the blessing of the Bodhisattva that helped me turn the danger into safety, and I must fulfill my wish to the Bodhisattva when I go back. I laughed and cried, jumped up and down and talked for several minutes. Nathan, however, remained in the same position, sitting on the sofa. He put one hand around me loosely and placed the other hand on the armrest of the sofa, rubbing it back and forth slowly. I know he does this when he's deep in thought, but I was telling him something so important. How could he be distracted? I called out to him, "Hey Nathan, I'm talking to you." He came back to his senses. "I'm listening. Are you done? If you're done, I'll go read the literature." Nathan has delicate facial features. However, his personality is always calm and distant. We have been together for 4 years, and I have hardly seen him have any mood swings. Even at this moment, when I told him about my life-threatening escape, his expression remained calm. It was as if what I was telling him with great enthusiasm was not his girlfriend's personal experience, but a badly made popcorn movie. My heart suddenly sank. In a trembling voice he said, "Nathan, I was really scared on the plane just now." But Nathan was already standing. He walked towards the study, leaving only one sentence. "I'm glad you're okay." "It's okay, that's good. Is that it?" "I just had a near-death experience." I stared at Nathan's face, trying to find a little fear, worry, or pity in his expression. But I found nothing. My heart felt like it was being tightly grasped by a pair of invisible hands, making it hard to breathe. I stopped Nathan and asked him almost pleadingly, "Do you really have to read the literature now?" "Nathan, I almost died on my way to see you. Why didn't you comfort me? Have you ever thought that if the plane falls?" In the night, Nathan looked a little helpless. He pushed my hand away and whispered, "Natalie, the chances of a plane crash are very low. 2. The boyfriend you think about day and night is right within reach." But at this moment I felt an indescribable loneliness. I sat on the sofa for a long time, feeling lost and alone. In the dim light of the living room, the phone glowed faintly. I opened the memo and saw the few words I had written in great fear. "Dear Mom and Dad, I love you. If there is an afterlife, I will come back to repay your kindness in raising me. Dear Nathan, I love you. If I survive this time, let's get married. Just now, I was about to talk about the experience of writing a suicide note. This memo may really be my last writing. But Nathan interrupted me so casually, because he was going to read literature. This is certainly a serious matter. But do I have to read it tonight? I don't believe he can't see that I'm still scared. As a doctor, he is able to keenly perceive the concerns of patients before surgery and comfort them in a gentle voice. Why is it that he has no idea of my fear? He either didn't notice it or he just turned a blind eye. Of course, I know that the probability of a plane crash is lower than that of a car accident, and I was indeed unharmed. But that doesn't mean I won't be afraid. At least for tonight, I really need him. When I thought I was on the verge of death, the person I couldn't bear to part with the most was him. I should be entitled to a few words of sympathy from him. Is this requirement difficult to achieve? It shouldn't be difficult, right? Nathan can comfort even the most difficult patients. I'm so easy to coax, how could he not succeed? Thinking of this, I pushed open the door of the study, wanting to force Nathan to say some sweet words to me. However, Nathan, who originally claimed to be looking at some documents, was talking to someone on the phone. The clear, sweet female voice seemed to be sobbing as she said, "Dr. Rogers, I'm scared." And Nathan whispered, "Don't be afraid. I'm here. Don't be afraid. I am here." The few words that I had been longing for were so easily heard by my boyfriend saying to others. I shuddered suddenly and my breathing became rapid. I knew I shouldn't interrupt Nathan's conversation with others. But at this moment, all the blood in my body rushed to my head and I could hardly care about anything. Rushing over and grabbing Nathan's phone. "Who are you telling not to be scared?" But he met a pair of calm eyes. Nathan stepped back and hung up the phone. I stared at his expression, tears rolling down my cheeks. "Who is she? Why are you telling her not to be afraid?" Nathan rubbed his brows, seeming helpless about my questioning. He said, "Natalie, stop it. I'm going to have a complicated operation next week. My partner is a newbie. It's her first time on the operating table. She was so nervous that she cried all night. As the surgeon in charge, what's wrong with me calming her down in advance? If the operation is affected by her nervousness, how can I live up to the patient's trust?" 3. My face burned with every word Nathan said. He has to snatch someone away from the hands of death, and the responsibility is heavy. This made me look like an unreasonable clown for questioning his infidelity. But we both have the same fear, so why can't I get his comfort? Am I not as good as his colleagues? I bit my lip and complained. She was scared to be on the operating table. The plane I was on almost crashed, so I was scared too. You can comfort her, why not me? Nathan sighed heavily. He stood up, took me in his arms and coaxed me. "Okay, don't cry. I'll comfort you now, okay? After I'm done with this, I'll take you out to relax." I am very familiar with Nathan. This was the best treatment he could give me, because I have heard this kind of words many times in the 4 years that we have been in love. "I'll take you out to play when I graduate with my PhD. I will accompany you after my internship is over. Wait until I finish this assessment." But he always has something new to do. Every time I tell myself that it's good that he has this intention. However, is it really necessary to make promises that are never fulfilled? Worse yet, I can't blame someone in such a noble profession for neglecting his partner in life. Finally, I left the room almost in panic. Perhaps it was because of the relaxation after the high level of tension that I fell into an unprecedented state of fatigue. I quickly washed up and curled up in bed. I fell asleep quickly, but the dreams were not peaceful. I felt like I was back on the violently shaking plane. When I woke up, I was sweating all over and had a dry mouth. It's early morning. Nathan next to me was still sleeping, but I couldn't fall asleep anymore. I picked up my phone and thought about playing something to distract myself. Then I opened WeChat unconsciously. Although we are in a long-distance relationship, Nathan and I have a long chat history every day. But I was the one doing the talking most of the time. I met a puppy while taking a walk, the company cafeteria launched new dishes, and I won $10 on a lottery ticket. I shared every detail with Nathan. Even if I receive a funny emoticon, I can't wait to forward it to him. But the white dialog box always has only a few scattered words. Okay, got it. Okay. I'm busy. It's up to you to decide. But even just a few words like these, I would carefully consider and then try to figure out Nathan's emotions when he responded to me. I'm used to Nathan spending most of his time and energy on his career. So I never care if he delays replying to my messages or simply doesn't reply, because I can also make my life fulfilling. I don't expect a response from him on the small matters. But why does he look like it's none of his business when his girlfriend's life is in danger? I really wanted to wake up Nathan from his deep sleep and ask him if he didn't love me anymore. But when I thought of the important operation he mentioned, I gave up the idea. After thinking about random things for a long time, I finally felt sleepy again. When I woke up the next day, Nathan was no longer at home. It's the weekend, but he still has to be on duty. I took this opportunity to talk to my parents and friends about my experience yesterday. I didn't dare tell the truth to my parents, so I said we encountered turbulence, but the captain was very skilled and we were safe. But when talking to my bestie, I would feel free to exaggerate and praise myself for being fearless in the face of danger and how cool I am. Maybe I was speaking too passionately, my bestie suddenly said. Oh my God. I'm really scared to death when you say that. I don't dare to fly recently. Honey, you should also fly less. I laughed and replied, okay. Then suddenly I was stunned. For over a year ago, Nathan and I started a long-distance relationship due to my job change. The two places are 1,500 kilometers apart. Many people have told me that I need to be more diligent when it comes to long-distance relationships. Nathan often works overtime on weekends, so I fly back to see him whenever I have time. So, how often do I travel? I hung up the phone and opened the app to buy the plane ticket. As he counted them one by one, his brows gradually furrowed. Up to now, we have been apart for 15 months. I came to see Nathan 14 times. He came to see me 3 times. Another time it was because I was on a business trip. To get from my home to his home, I have to change 3 modes of transportation and it takes a full 5 hours. It was tiring from the long journey, but I never felt wronged. Because I always go out with expectations. I always understand Nathan's hard work. So why can't he understand me when I encounter danger and get scared to death during the journey? Isn't it just a few words to comfort me? It wouldn't take him much time to talk about it. I paced around the house distractedly and unconsciously walked to the refrigerator. Nathan doesn't cook, and his kitchen shows no signs of use. However, when I opened the refrigerator, I was stunned again. The refrigerator was empty with only a lunchbox in it. There is a cute little duck printed on the tender yellow lid. I was so sad last night that I forgot to bring 4 rice dumplings for Nathan. I spent the night wrapping this the day before yesterday. It was my first time learning how to make rice dumplings, and they tasted surprisingly good. In a moment of excitement, I carried them across more than 1,000 kilometers and gave them to Nathan for tasting. It was almost time for dinner. So I simply picked up my lunchbox and took a taxi to the hospital. I am quite familiar with Nathan's colleagues, but this time I saw a strange face. The girl sitting opposite Nathan has a cute baby face. When she called Nathan, there was also a playful ending tone. I immediately realized that this was the girl who had called Nathan late last night and said she was scared. She received Nathan's comfort so easily. I wanted to force a smile at her, but the muscles in my face are stiff. Nathan saw me too. He walked towards me with a normal expression, turning back and introducing me. Isabella Lee, this is my girlfriend. At this moment, the phone at the desk rang. Perhaps something happened to the patient, and the 2 men hurriedly passed me and ran towards the inpatient area. I've become accustomed to Nathan's neglect. I left the lunchbox on his desk and went for a walk in the hospital garden. However, when I came back, I felt all the blood rushing to my head. On the floor of the office lies my little yellow duck lunchbox. There were 4 rice dumplings, not one more, not one less. All of them fell to the ground and could not be eaten. I looked at Isabella, who was frantically looking for tissues to wipe the floor, and Nathan, who was sitting next to them and trying to smooth things over by saying, it's okay, it's not worth anything, you don't have to apologize. At this moment, a sharp pain came from deep in my heart. 5. For rice dumplings, even if you buy them outside, will not cost more than 20 yuan. In today's society, what can you do with 20 yuan? Buying a cup of milk tea, taking a taxi, Or even buying a capsule toy at a roadside capsule toy shop will cost far more than 20 yuan. Therefore, it doesn't seem to be a pity that these rice dumplings were wasted. But they were made by me. I traveled a long way to bring this to my boyfriend. However, they were knocked to the ground by his colleagues. I suppressed my anger and asked Nathan, "What's going on?" He scratched his hair a little embarrassedly and said, "It's my fault. When Isabella handed me the lunchbox, I didn't catch it." He seemed to really think that I was blind. In the past, I would put Nathan's feelings first. If he feels the slightest bit embarrassed, uncomfortable, or in trouble, I will take the initiative to give him a way out. But this time I won't. At this moment, I seem to be particularly easy to get angry. I don't know whether it's because of these dumplings that died with their eyes open, or because of myself who was repeatedly ignored despite my passion. It seemed as if something had changed from the moment I stepped off that bumpy plane. I mercilessly exposed Nathan's lies. "You were sitting in your seat when I walked in. How could she hand you the lunchbox from such a distance? You lied for her because you're afraid I'll blame her?" Nathan froze. He seemed to finally realize that I was angry. Isabella next to him came over timidly. "Sister Natalie, the lunchbox is too hot. I heard from Dr. Rogers that you did this yourself? I was really ignorant. I'm sorry." I looked at Isabella, who looked bewildered. And there was Nathan, who stood between her and me, as if he was afraid that I would get angry with her. For a moment I was speechless. I could only rub my brows tiredly and asked Nathan, "And then?" Nathan probably didn't understand what I meant, and he replied subconsciously, "Just give it to me next time." It was as if a basin of ice water was poured over my head. My voice was already filled with anger. "Next time? Did you know that it took me 4 hours to make these dumplings? And then I have to take them with me, take the subway for 50 minutes to the airport, go through security, board the plane, fly for 2 hours, and then take a taxi to your home. Don't you cherish them so much? Nathan, don't you need to apologize to me?" This seemed to be the first time I lost my temper with Nathan. After saying this, my heart started pounding. There have been conflicts in this long relationship. But we can't quarrel. One reason is that Nathan's emotions are too stable. Secondly, it's because I really love him deeply. But I didn't expect that he couldn't even feel my anger. He sighed and said calmly, "Natalie, I know it takes a long time for you to travel to see me. But why do you make yourself so tired? Whether you come to see me or not, I'm here." At this moment, it seemed as if all the energy was drained from the body. I watched the man I had loved for 4 years. His calmness, rationality, and tolerance towards Isabella made my enthusiasm seem like a joke. 5. During my sophomore year, I met Nathan in the library of the medical school next door. That day, he sat by the window. Wearing a clean white shirt, he has handsome features and an extraordinary temperament. At that moment, the world seemed to be quiet. I lingered beside him for a long time, and finally couldn't help but move closer to see what book he was reading. That's when Nathan suddenly looked up. Our eyes met and my heart almost stopped. From then on, I went to the library every day. After many chance encounters, I finally mustered up the courage to introduce myself to him. "Hi, I'm Natalie, a Chinese major at University A." I didn't actually expect him to remember me. After all, I had already heard that he was a well-known academic genius in the medical school, and he had countless suitors around him. But that day, a gentle smile appeared on Nathan's lips. There was even a hint of doting in his voice. He said, "I know. You're so cute when you look at me secretly." After we made our relationship public, many people couldn't help but make a few comments. "What's the name of the idol drama where the stupid girl chases the genius doctor? I believe in love again." After all, Nathan is recognized as the most intelligent and handsome school idol in the medical school, while I am just like everyone else in terms of both talent and appearance. From the perspective of ordinary people, I am indeed trying to get ahead of myself. I had some lack of confidence because of this. However, I soon discovered that Nathan liked to see me smile and listen to me talk. Whenever I talked about something and was extremely happy, his eyes would soften. Maybe, compared to the serious communication with classmates, he also needs the lively me to give him some spice. These two seemingly mismatched people have actually gone through 4 years of ups and downs together. Long-distance relationships are so hard. But I gritted my teeth and persevered. But at this moment, I suddenly lost confidence in this relationship. I always thought that Nathan's neglect of me was because he was naturally cold and not good at expressing his emotions. But does he really not know how to do it? He knows how to care about the emotions of his colleagues who are performing the operating table for the first time. I would also take the initiative to take the blame for her mistakes, just because I was afraid that she would be blamed by me, which would further affect her performance on stage. He actually has a high emotional intelligence and knows how to get along with others and be polite and courteous. But he never showed these to me. I pinched my fingers into my palms and felt exhausted. Yes, your method is good. I don't want to be so tired in the future. You get along better with your colleagues when I'm not here to see you, right? I knew there was a hint of sarcasm in my voice. Nathan must have noticed it too. Finally, a hint of annoyance appeared on his always calm face. The room was silent for a long time before I heard him say, "The ingredients for the zongzi are not worth much, why bother with her? She has been in a bad mood recently. If this affects the surgery, it will be very difficult." He really is exactly the same as I understand him. Rationally analyze the value of items and the probability of events occurring, and then evaluate how we should respond to them and what the consequences will be if we don't do anything. But he intentionally or unintentionally ignored the fact that he should at least give his girlfriend the same respect as he gave to his colleagues. I held back the pain in my heart, tried to regulate my breathing, and asked Nathan, "When will you get off work?" Nathan didn't understand and replied directly, 3 more hours. That's enough. Enough for me to get back to his house, grab my bags, and leave him. It's quite interesting to talk about. Back then, when I confessed my love to Nathan, I spent 2 full months preparing myself mentally. It took less than 2 days to decide to leave him. 6. In fact, I considered whether I should say goodbye to him. After all, when it comes to love, it's important to have a beginning and an end. When I watched TV dramas before, I never understood why the heroine would always cry so heartbreakingly when breaking up. Ugly and stupid. But now I seem to really understand it. The moment I tried to completely remove my love for him from my body, tears were worthless. Emotions are out of control. I almost lost my mind and rushed back to scold Nathan viciously. But why bother? Let him feel how painful it is for me to lose him, that would be giving him face. I quickly pushed the box out of his house. I changed my flight, sitting in the waiting area, watching the sky gradually darken. Just before boarding the plane, I received a WeChat message from Nathan. "I'm home from get off work. Natalie, why did you leave so suddenly?" Normally, I would be overjoyed when I received these precious words. But now it just seems ridiculous. Gone suddenly? How could it be sudden? In love, no one disappears suddenly. Expectations are fading, disappointments are accumulating, and we are drifting further and further away. But he never noticed, and I finally woke up. I replied to Nathan, "Let's break up." His phone call came immediately. I turned off my phone immediately. Perhaps because the experience of strong air currents 2 days ago was too unforgettable, I held on to the handrail tightly and closed my eyes when taking off. I kept repeating to myself, "I am safe. Nothing will happen to me." However, tears are not bound by my will. I cried uncontrollably at an altitude of 10,000 meters. I thought, this is the last time I cry for Nathan. Starting tomorrow, I will erase, bit by bit, all traces of his existence. Maybe it will be difficult to forget him, but I have the determination. I can walk slower, but I won't look back. On the first day of learning to forget Nathan, good news came. My best friend Chloe rescued an abandoned golden retriever and asked me to help forward the adoption message. Looking at the pitiful little life in the video, my heart softened all of a sudden. I said, "I'll take care of it." Chloe was shocked. "Baby, don't be ridiculous. Isn't your Nathan a germaphobe?" Nathan is a doctor and is more or less a germaphobe. In the past, because of him, I couldn't touch cute cats and dogs when I saw them on the street. But he will no longer be in my future life plan, so why should I care about his preferences? Since you are a person, you should be happier. I said casually, "Oh, I forgot to tell you that I broke up with him yesterday." I was the one who broke up with her, but Chloe was the one who was holding her head and screaming. After a while, she calmed down and asked me, "What's the reason?" I thought I was calm enough, but my voice still had a tearful tone. "He doesn't love me." In fact, I can find some evidence that Nathan loves me from our daily interactions. For example, in his first year of work, he gave me his salary card for safekeeping. I was shocked and refused repeatedly. He then prescribed me a prescription. Even though I never used it, it was never turned off. For example, his WeChat is open to me. A girl sent him ambiguous messages, but he neither replied nor deleted the messages. I saw it and felt a little jealous. But he said seriously that he had the confidence that he would not betray me. For example, when we go out, he will carry my bag for me and doesn't mind taking pictures for me. But if I need a magnifying glass to find his love, does that mean that I didn't actually feel his love at all? After listening to me, Chloe pondered for a long time. Finally, he said, "Forget it. If you want to keep the puppy, just keep it for a few days. If you and Nathan make up someday, I will find a new owner." I can't blame Chloe for thinking that, because she knows how much I've cared about Nathan. You also know how much I cherish this relationship. What's more, from a secular perspective, Nathan has a good educational background and stable career prospects. He is both smart and steady, especially with a nice face. Then I should be content. Even if he ignores me, I should be happily self-indulgent and never tired. But it really is like holding a glass of water. Whether it is cold or warm, suitable or not, only I know. Vows can be fabricated and romance can be disguised. Only heartache is an emotion that comes from the heart. It cannot deceive others, nor can it deceive yourself. I don't want to deceive myself anymore. If Nathan loved me, why not worry when he noticed I was scared? Even if a person has 1,000 good qualities, if he doesn't love me, then everything else is in vain. 8. I have been with Nathan for 4 years, and it's not like I haven't broken up before. That was the second time he missed my birthday. I felt a little aggrieved and half-jokingly said to Nathan, "There are 365 days in a year, but I only have one birthday. If you keep doing this, I'm going to break up with you. Actually, everything will be fine if he just coaxes me. What I want is not a refined photo that I can post on WeChat moments. He just promised me that he would spend every birthday with me in the future." But Nathan said, "Natalie, I hope that breaking up is a decision we both made after careful consideration, not just a joke. If you ask for a breakup, I won't stop you. Because when a patient gets sick is never something I can control. Look, this is him. Always calm, rational, and logical. So, this is why he stopped contacting me after I broke up with him and I rejected his calls. I didn't expect that he was even more efficient than me. I'm afraid that my breaking up with him would also be a relief for him." Thinking of this, I breathed a sigh of relief. I opened WeChat and deleted Nathan's contact information. Unexpectedly that night, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. On the other end of the phone, Nathan's voice sounded a little tired and a little hoarse. He said, "I performed 3 operations today. I am very tired, so I will keep it short. Natalie, stop it and add me back on WeChat." Nathan's tone was so certain. He probably thought that if he just gave in, I would come back to him. That's right, I put 200% of my sincerity into this relationship. He was more like a cold bystander. Only when he realizes that things are not quite what he expected will he condescend to correct them personally. A sensible girlfriend will give him this opportunity. I don't know what's good for me. I held the phone tightly and said with a half-smile, "Have you forgotten that I broke up with you? I'm not making a fuss and I'm not joking. Nathan, please don't contact me anymore." Nathan's tone became heavy. "Natalie, you have to give me a reason for breaking up that I can accept. I know I'm not as smart as Nathan in many ways. However, I can also sense that some of the words he used actually have deeper meanings." I said, "The reason you can't accept it is the reason." Nathan cursed under his breath. His calm voice seemed to be suppressing anger. "It's not that easy for a plane to fall. Natalie, you are standing in front of me safely. What else can I say? Yes, the plane won't fall down easily. It is said that a fatal air crash occurs only once in 1.1765 million flights. And the flight that was bumpy due to air turbulence did arrive safely." I finally stood in front of Nathan and scathed. "But I really went through 30 terrifying minutes." I smiled bitterly and said, "Will I not be afraid just because it's unlikely to cause any trouble? Even though I know it's not that dangerous, as the person I plan to spend my life with, shouldn't you comfort me? Even when Isabella asked you for help, you comforted her. I have worked so hard to build our relationship. Why don't you even say a word of gratitude? You are just making sure that I will not leave you. But Nathan, you've disappointed me so many times. I'll disappoint you this time too. I will leave you. Because you don't cherish me. In front of Nathan, I lowered myself lower and lower. Finally, it fell into the dust. I really did something wrong. How could he see me, a humble person covered in dust? If there is a mistake, correct it. Ending this unequal relationship is a reasonable solution. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a long time. I seemed to hear Nathan's heavy breathing. Just before I hung up the phone, I heard him say, "Then, I'll change it. Natalie, I was wrong this time. Give me a chance to cherish you, okay?" 9. Nathan's tone was almost begging. It made my heart tremble slightly. But this is already the 4th day since I broke up with him. In other words, Nathan waited 4 days before contacting me, even though he thought we were still in a relationship. I am truly flattered that he took time out of his busy schedule to contact me. Suppose I accepted his apology. Then what was the point of me waiting for him all those times before? I shook my head and gently refused. "I'm sorry, this is all I like about you. But you keep squandering. I've accumulated enough disappointment, and you can't stop me from leaving." It wasn't until I experienced a near-death experience that I finally understood what kind of life and partner I wanted. I have an education and a job, and I am capable of living a decent life. What I need is not great wealth or fame. It's just that when I ask my partner for comfort, he's able to respond. On that terrifying night, I really wished he could be with me. But he didn't. Well, I was completely heartbroken, and there was nothing I could do about it. The withdrawal symptoms from the breakup were more severe than I thought. The 4 years of relationship have long been engraved in my bones and have become an indispensable part of me. I think of Nathan in countless insignificant details. For example, I took my newly adopted puppy for a walk and saw a beautiful sunset. I took out my phone to take pictures, but it wasn't until I opened WeChat that I realized I shouldn't have shared these with Nathan. For example, my supervisor talked to me and promised me a promotion and salary increase, and told me that I could apply for a transfer in the second half of the year and work in the city where Nathan was. I thanked my supervisor, but after this transfer I was no longer needed. Even a week later, I went to attend a classmate's wedding. The bride greeted me warmly and said, "Natalie, I'll give you the bouquet later." She was one of the witnesses to my campus romance with Nathan. My smile faltered for a moment, but I still admitted frankly, "We broke up." The bride was stunned for a moment, then said uncertainly, "But Nathan said he would come too." She pointed behind me and said, "Look, he's here." My breathing hitched slightly, but I eventually turned around slowly. Under the light, Nathan seemed thinner. He stared at me intently, and deep in his eyes, there seemed to be some hidden emotions surging. It seems a bit unnecessary to miss a friend's wedding, just because you might run into your ex. I passed Nathan without even saying hello. Instead, he sat quietly in his seat, eating melon seeds and chatting with the students sitting next to him. We didn't chat for long when someone suddenly sat next to me. "It's Nathan." He switched seats with the person next to me. The ceremony was about to begin. I didn't want to argue with him at this critical moment, so I ignored him and just turned my head to watch the ceremony. But he spoke. He said he took a special leave just to fly over to see me. I've thought about it over and over again, and there's no principled conflict between us. Therefore, there's still a possibility of redemption. Natalie, a 4-year relationship is not easy. You can't just say no and then give up. That's too childish. On the 29th day after the breakup, Nathan tried to win me back for the second time. He was still as calm as ever. Even in order to win me back, he had to present facts and reason with me. Maybe he is right. There is no bloody third party interfering between us. There is no such thing as parents breaking up a couple. It seems that we have a great chance of achieving success. So why did I give up halfway? 10. At this moment, the newlyweds on the stage hugged and kissed each other amid the applause of the crowd. I was also somewhat moved. Once upon a time, I imagined this scene countless times. Whenever I see beautiful wedding dresses or settings, I will quietly collect them for future use. I never thought that there would be a day when I would leave Nathan on my own initiative. But nothing unexpected. I just can't help it. But I have no regrets. I raised my hand to wipe away the tears from the corners of my eyes, then asked Nathan with a smile. For years of relationship is not easy. But, have you paid as much as I have? Nathan, you hate scents, so I don't even dare to buy perfume. You like black and white, so I only wore my strawberry bear skirt once in front of you. You don't like noise, so I have to wear headphones even when watching TV shows at your house. You have a light diet, so I gave up spicy food. You like cleanliness, so I don't keep pets. There are so many incompatibilities between us, but you never felt it. Because I am the one catering to you. But no one is tireless. Even if I were that person, I would feel the pain. And you're right, I don't have to work so hard. He has his reasons. I have mine too. My reasoning is that I don't want to give my love anymore. I regret the love I have wasted. Nathan's face turned pale. His Adam's apple trembled slightly, and he promised hoarsely, I will change. You tell me I can change it. You don't need to cater to me anymore. Natalie, can I cater to you instead? I really don't want to lose you. This time I saw tears in Nathan's eyes without a doubt. It turns out that even someone as steady and reserved as him can lose control at times. Maybe he likes me more than I think. But is that all? I stared at Nathan and said calmly, We'll change. Are those the only 2 words? We are all adults now. Not minors who can express our feelings by writing a love letter. We should judge by deeds instead of feelings. You said you would change for me, but how can I believe it before I see the results? A few words won't buy me off anymore, Nathan. You could before because I loved you. I choose to believe everything you say. I am also willing to endure the frustration of having my expectations dashed. But now I am slowly falling out of love with you. Then you can't blame me for being a little picky. I'm not sure Nathan would make the change for me. He's let me down so many times already. One more time, nothing special. But whether that change will happen or not, I won't wait for him here anymore. After this goodbye, I continued to look for ways to shift the focus of my life. I signed up for a gym membership. As long as I worked up enough sweat, I would sleep soundly at night and not dream about Nathan. I made zongzi again, and this time the taste was even better. I gave them to my colleagues and friends, and they all praised them. A few weeks later, I was successfully promoted and my salary doubled. In fact, this position should have belonged to me a long time ago, but I was always obsessed with moving to the city where Nathan was, so I refused to compete. A few weeks later, I ran into a new neighbor while walking my puppy around the neighborhood. The man was very young, tall, with a wheat-colored complexion and a neat crew cut. I'm walking my golden retriever. He is walking his border collie. The 2 dogs had a lot of fun playing. The new neighbor also greeted me. My dog's name is Gentleman. What's your dog's name? I pursed my lips and smiled. My name is Aaron. The other party also laughed. This name is down to earth and nice. But why this name? I was dazed for a moment, because when I walked off that plane I said to myself, Natalie, you have survived a disaster, and you will surely have good fortune in the future. Nathan once occupied a large part of my life. Without him, I thought I would lose a big part of myself. But I just lost him. I got the world back again. How can this not be considered Aaron? So on the 77th day after the breakup, I made a new friend. His name is Christian Howard. 11. Christian is a children's football coach and works at a training institution near the community. When passing by their training ground, you can often see him laughing and playing with a group of half-grown children. It can be seen that he has a fiery and flamboyant temperament. It has nothing to do with gentlemanly or elegant. Our relationship was free-flowing from the beginning. Occasionally we would meet each other while walking the dog and walk together for a while. If you can't touch it, don't force it. Neither of us is talkative, but when it comes to topics that interest both of us, we can always talk for a long time. Later, we added each other on WeChat. Christian always responded to my messages promptly, and if there was a delay, he would always explain the reason. Because of work, I occasionally go out for a day or 2. When I ask him to help walk the dog, he will never refuse if he can do it, and will tell me directly if he can't do it. In front of Christian, I can be myself comfortably. No need to worry about any words exposing my bad student nature. There is no need to worry about the feeling of disappointment of not getting a response when you speak. Chloe was looking forward to Nathan and I getting back together. But he didn't make any move and she got tired of waiting. She complained to me. If he says something but doesn't do it, then why does he say it? I pinched her face and said with a smile, "Yeah, why did you take it so seriously?" I had stopped taking it seriously. Maybe because she was mad at Nathan after meeting Christian. Chloe immediately urged me to try a new relationship. She said confidently, "Baby, all arrangements are the best arrangements. You should thank Nathan for not pursuing you. Forget about him." I do think about Nathan less and less. Even if I remember it, the memory seems to be covered with a layer of dust, blurry and unclear. After leaving Nathan, I was willing to try to love other people. But I don't plan to start a new relationship so soon. After all, I'm still a little tired. That love was not passionate, but it was unforgettable. I think I should step away for a while. However, after a while I still wavered. That day, the entire community lost power because a nearby construction project dug up electrical cables. I was at home worrying about what to do for dinner when there was a knock on the door. Christian held his gentleman's hand and smiled brightly. "Natalie, I remember you said you were afraid of the dark. So I came over to drop off some candles and see if you need anything." I did mention to Christian during our casual chat that I was afraid of the dark. But that was when I was a kid. And I didn't expect that Christian would remember so clearly a small thing I mentioned casually. I made sure I didn't show any sign of wanting to see him beyond friendship. However, even as friends, we should be able to sympathize with each other's fears. This kind of mutual understanding and care is something I have never experienced before. How could I not yearn for it? I suppressed the throbbing in my heart and politely thanked him. "Thank you for thinking of me." On the 127th day after the breakup, I realized for the first time that I began to look forward to love again. It's not the kind of love where only one person gives foolishly, but it's the kind that goes both ways. A few days later, Christian asked me out for dinner. The reason was pretty good, saying that this was a pet-friendly restaurant with good reviews. But I never guessed that pets were not the point at all. This date was very harmonious. When they said goodbye downstairs, Christian seemed to be struggling with something. We stood very close. So close that I could even smell the faint, clear and clean scent on him. I pursed my lips subconsciously. I wondered uncertainly, was he trying to confess his feelings, or was he trying to kiss me? However, just before the mystery was about to be solved, someone called my name. "Natalie." "It's Nathan." He stared at me and Christian, his whole body tense. 12. I was a little surprised to see Nathan again. I thought he had given up on getting me back. Nathan had some blue stubble on his chin. He has always been well dressed. How could he neglect to take care of himself? When I looked at him, I felt a little strange for the first time. I asked Christian to go home first. He kindly raised his phone and told me, "I'll be waiting nearby. If you need anything, call me." I whispered, "Okay." Watching Christian walk away, Nathan's Adam's apple rolled heavily, his eyes slightly fierce. "Who is he?" I answered honestly, "A potential love interest." Nathan's forehead immediately popped up with blue veins. "Natalie, we've been dating for 4 years and we've only been apart for 4 months, and you're going to fall in love now? It turns out that we have broken up for 4 months. I thought the days after the breakup would be very long and difficult. But after really getting through it, it doesn't seem like a big deal." I looked up at Nathan and said, "We're broken up. I hope you won't come to see me again in the future." I pretended to leave, and Nathan suddenly became anxious. He stretched out his hand to stop me. "I have something important to discuss with you." He stared at me, as if he didn't want to miss any expression on my face. "I have an opportunity for overseas training. If you agree, I will come to your place to study for a year. When I finish my further studies, you can transfer to another job. We can live in the same city and you won't have to travel so much. Natalie, you asked me to change something to prove my love for you, and I did it. Don't choose him, choose me, okay?" My hand holding the puppy shook a little. I'm surprised Nathan has changed. Maybe it's because I was disappointed in him so many times, but I was surprised that he actually did it this once. But he was originally a genius. He ranked first in every course when he was studying, and he is also a professional doctor. Running for love does not require too much technical content, and with his wisdom, it is not something that can be done easily. For the sake of our relationship, when I take 99 steps, he must also take the first step. I taught him to take the first step. The later ones can also be taught slowly. But do I really have the patience? In the process of teaching him, won't I have to put in more effort? And I am really tired. When I'm with Christian, I don't have to worry about not getting a response when I act coquettishly. No need to worry about missing your birthday. No need to worry about being stood up on a date. No need to worry about being left behind because of walking slowly. Don't worry about your carefully prepared food being ignored. Don't worry when I need a hug. He will come up with some cold truths to tell me that I don't need it. In a secular sense, Nathan is excellent. Can even be said to be the top that I can reach. If I marry him, maybe it will be a happy marriage in the eyes of the world. But what I need is not the envy in the eyes of others. But he is my partner who understands my feelings. I want to be someone who I consider to be happy, rather than the happy people they talk about. I smiled and said to Nathan very seriously, "Why don't we just forget about it this time? But next time you have to remember what I taught you. Don't let down other girls who love you anymore." Nathan's pupils contracted sharply. He seemed to want to say something else. But my puppy bared his teeth at him and he could only back away. I smiled at Nathan and said, "Let me introduce you to him. His name is Aaron. Because I feel happy to be away from you." A trace of pain flashed across Nathan's face, and he choked with gritted teeth. "But I will be unhappy if I leave you." Hearing him say this, I still frowned slightly. However, the sense of relief that came from my body made me realize that I had done nothing wrong. There are many voices in the world. I want to listen to the one that is closest to my heart. I took Aaron home. It wasn't until half an hour later when I went to draw the curtains that I was surprised to find Nathan was still standing under the streetlight. The street lamp made his stiff shadow very long. Why hasn't he left yet? But it's up to him whether to leave or not. All of a sudden, Nathan squatted down, crossed his arms and buried his head in them. It looks like he is crying, because his shoulders were shaking. But what does this have to do with me? He eventually became someone insignificant to me. The roses have withered. No matter how sincerely he waters the plants, I won't change my mind. Any regrets? Definitely. How can I not feel regret? That was the person I loved throughout my youth. The beginning of the story was so perfect, but we never had any contact again after that. But I want to plant new flowers and bear new fruits. Life always moves forward and gets better and better. 13 extra. Nathan often feels that his life is boring. He perfectly inherited his parents' intelligence and fortunately, he was also gifted with good looks. Therefore, studying, furthering education and finding a job went smoothly. His life is like a steadily rising straight line. Everyone else envied him, but only he knew that he was bored with everything in life. Until he met Natalie. Whenever you see her, she is always smiling. But Nathan didn't understand. She came from an ordinary family, wasn't particularly pretty, and had an average IQ. Why was she so happy? But she is like a flourishing flower growing in the mountains. It's not very pretty, and even unworthy of being in a formal setting, but full of vitality. This was exactly what he was missing. Moreover, he actually liked her a little. Originally, he thought that falling in love was a troublesome thing, because he has seen his roommate in love. The girlfriend was so unreasonable that she asked her roommate for a 1-month souvenir of our relationship. She even lost her temper in public because her roommate got the wrong idea about the skirt she was wearing on their first date. When her roommate had a meal with a female classmate, she was so anxious that she jumped up and down. Nathan frowned repeatedly. Love is too troublesome. It's best if we don't talk about it. This is Nathan's conclusion. However, Natalie is an exception. She is really well behaved. She was considerate, tolerant, and obedient to him, as if she had no temper at all. With her, he could be late for important appointments. You can refuse foods you don't like. He can tell her that he doesn't like a certain piece of clothing she's wearing. Just treat her a little well occasionally and she will be grateful. He enjoys this relationship. Seeing how she tried so hard to please him, he even considered marrying her. The career he chose is very stressful. In order to go further in his career, he must spend almost all his energy on work. Natalie might be the perfect match for him. For someone like him, feelings are only a small part of his life, or it may not exist at all. He has the confidence. However, he could never have imagined that she, who had always regarded him as a god, would leave quietly. The cause was just such a trivial matter. Nathan was surprised at first. Then came anger. People all over the world travel by plane every day. Why is she the only one who is worried? From a probability perspective, there is no chance that anything will happen to her. In fact, she was indeed sitting in his house. So, what's the point of the boyfriend's additional comfort and consolation afterwards? The reason he comforted Isabella was all for the sake of the patient. But she left so decisively. He wasn't even given a chance to have a fight. Nathan thought about whether he should just let it go. He had warned her long ago that breaking up was no joke, and that he would never redeem the relationship once they broke up. Natalie could leave him for one trivial matter, and then for another trivial matter. He didn't have time to deal with it. But strangely enough, before she broke up with him, he could concentrate on his work, but after she broke up with him, he began to think of her all the time. Nathan was sure that he was very attached to her, and was reluctant to give up this relationship. So he decided to fly to her city and say some soft words to please her, which was the biggest concession he could make. He never liked traveling, but for her, he could endure the noise of the flight for 2 hours. But she still didn't appreciate it. The usually gentle girl suddenly became eloquent, and even he couldn't handle it. She even insisted that he make tangible changes. Nathan was a little annoyed. He was used to her thinking of him in everything. Why couldn't she always do so? Nathan decided to put the matter aside for now. But he gradually found that he couldn't concentrate on anything he did, and even started to be absent-minded at work. After learning that he had broken up, Isabella pursued him passionately for a few days, but he was too indifferent, so she sensibly gave up. He wasn't even interested in looking at the girl his colleague introduced to him. A colleague teased him. "Dr. Rogers, you have high standards. What do you like?" Nathan gaped. He once thought that he didn't care about feelings and that Natalie was not so perfect. It's okay even if we break up. Just find someone who loves him wholeheartedly. But when he really lost her, he was surprised to find that she was so irreplaceable. Then change it for her. Anyway, coax her back, get married, and maybe have 1 or 2 children. Then she won't leave him so easily. But he didn't expect that Natalie started dating another man in just 4 months. He had begged her so humbly. But she just said to him righteously, "Let's just forget it." Nathan didn't accept the opportunity to be sent abroad, because he thought that this girl would definitely regret it. Maybe in a few days she will find that the man is inferior to him in every way. That's right, he's not as handsome as him, he's not as educated as him, and he doesn't even have a stable job. Apart from accompanying her to have fun all day long, I don't see anything about me that is worthy of her liking. When she comes back, he can let bygones be bygones. However, he guessed wrong again. Half a year later, she got married to that little bastard. He really didn't understand where he lost. He also wondered if she was too embarrassed to ask him to get back together. But at the wedding, she smiled so happily. Even the not-so-pretty face brightened up. Perhaps roses nourished by love are always bright and eye-catching. Although Nathan came uninvited, he was allowed to sit at the table because he brought a big red envelope. He got extremely drunk at the wedding reception. Several classmates dragged him into the guest room and helped him sober up. They were chatting. "Wow, I didn't realize Nathan is quite affectionate. Our Nathan has a bright future ahead of him. I don't know how Natalie decided to break up with him. Yes, he is so outstanding. How did Natalie make up her mind?" Nathan closed his eyes and fell on the bed, with a splitting headache. In the overwhelming darkness, he seemed to see the frightened girl again. There were tears in her eyes, but she talked to him happily. "Wow, let me tell you, it really is like riding a roller coaster. But it's 100 times scarier than a roller coaster. The oxygen masks are dangling in front of me. But I'm so awesome. I was always comforting the little sister next to me. Nathan, give me a hug. I almost lost sight of you." She trailed off as if she was afraid he would do nothing about it. This time he hugged her gently. In his dream in endless tears, he said to her, and as if to himself, "I am also afraid that I will never see you again. Natalie, I really love you." End of full text.